So this is never cooked. So this right now, what I'm using is a round eye roast or something like that. This is beef. I know it's really pink and it's not as dark red as usual beef is, but it's been sitting in the fridge for a while and it's had enough time for blood to kind of drain out. You usually don't need to do that. I just have been too lazy to actually get this done. But what I've done when I first bought this was I kind of trimmed off all the fat already. And so from here, I am going to slice it in half and kind of shape it a little bit. And then we're going to start slicing them into thinner like strips, similar to the ones that I have up here. A large piece of meat. Let's slice this in half. So we got that there. Not bad, huh? It's pretty good. All right, so once we have something like this, I like to slice this somewhat, like maybe half an inch to an inch thick, and we'll have a few slabs of it. So let's go with something like this. That's good. So that's about half an inch to an inch thick or so, right? And that should be a decent piece of meat. It can be a little thinner, actually. This is slightly a bit too thick, I think. But we'll see. We'll experiment, right? So this piece is good. I'll leave this to the side. This piece is really good also. And this can be a little thinner. So we're going to shave this down a little bit. So that's good. There you go. And now this piece is a bit real thin, but this will dry out faster and this will work just fine. So now we have this. I got a weird piece thing right here, so I'm just gonna go like this. There you go. That's good. See? Just like that. So this is sort of like the size that you kind of want. So that type of thickness and about this type of shape. You'll also notice that I'm cutting along the grain, right? So a lot of people tend to cut against the grain when they're making like beef jerky and stuff like this. They do that so that when it's time to eat, it chews a little bit better and it's easier. But I like it like this. I like it with the grain. So when I am done with it, I can literally peel it almost like string cheese. There you go. See, another really, really good piece. This piece is perfect. There you go. So we got a decent amount of meat here. And this is just some scraps. Grab a clean container like this and put all the seasonings in. So when you cure meat, you typically want either salty or acidic sort of sauces. You can use stuff like sugar and honey and maple syrup also, but I haven't played around with that too much. Best thing to do is use like foolproof stuff that works already, you know. So I am going to be working with like salty and acidic stuff. So this is ponzu sauce. This is sort of like a citrusy soy sauce, and so I love using this. And this is yuzu extract. This is almost like lime or lemon. You can use lemons also, but I'm just gonna pour this in. And this is also ponzu, it's just a different brand. There you go. And then I'm going to put some yuzu in for the acidity, a little bit more acidity. This is a black garlic shoyu. This is sort of like soy sauce, but it's a little bit more milder, and it has garlic or black garlic in it. And I'm not measuring anything, so I kind of just throw things together. Let's see. This is my maple syrup. All right. So this maple syrup here, the sugar from this is going to kind of mellow out these flavors a little bit. So it'll give it a better sort of aftertaste, sort of like better result. There you go. And this is not needed, but this is a hot pepper paste or a hot pepper powder that I use. So I'm just gonna toss this in and give it some more flavor. Yeah, and so from here, you can kind of just mix everything up. And you want to make sure that everything, all the meat is soaking in this liquid. And so here are the rest. And so basically what ends up happening is you just marinate this for about a few days. I usually do about 2, 3, maybe even 4 days. But most of the time I'm doing like 3 days. This is beef. I'm using beef. It's a it's called like the round eye roast or something like that. This piece is slightly still too thick, so I'm going to thin this out. I like using this type of cut because it doesn't have too much fat. Sometimes you might see streaks of fat like that, but for the most part, this is a pretty lean meat, and I prefer leaner meat when I am making my dried meat like this. Yeah, and this is basically it. This is pretty much it. So essentially, you just let this soak for a few days, right? Every day though, you take it out and you mix it all up to make sure that all of the pieces of meat are getting all of the sauce sort of like soaking in, I guess, or just get everything to soak in. And you just do this every few days for about 3-4 days, and then once all of that time is up, right, you just take this and then you hang it up somewhere dry and cool, and once it dries up, it's good to eat. A way to kind of speed up the entire process though is to put it on a rack, like a cookie rack, on in your fridge. So let's see here. So we just cover this up. So right now, right, I can leave this in my shed because it's cool enough, but for the most part, you want to put this now in your fridge, and you put it in the fridge, and then the following day, after 24 hours, you like shake it up, flip it around, and you just do that, leave it in the fridge, and you're good to go. So this is the type of rack that I use. This is like a cookie cooling rack. I use this rack to dry my meat in my fridge. And so I take this, I put the rack, I have few things on the bottom to kind of keep it off the sort of, what is it, the shelf. So I give it let's see here, about 3-4 inches of space below it, and I have like a piece of saran wrap underneath or aluminum foil underneath, so that way when you have the meat on top, anything that drips, it'll just catch on the aluminum foil or whatever. But for the most part, I keep this on the top where all the airflow is at the top. So like, you know where the light is on a refrigerator, usually that's where the air is kind of blowing in. You usually want to keep the rack there because the airflow, right, is going to allow the meat to dry out faster. So you have the meat, right, like this or like this, right, and then the airflow will cause the meat to dry out slowly. And so it usually takes between like 1 to 2 weeks or so before it dries enough to where you can handle it without getting your fingers dirty. And so the best thing to do actually is to keep it on the rack, and then after like a couple of days, you flip the piece of meat so that way it dries evenly. And so I just kind of monitor it like that. And so once it's dry enough, right, to the touch, but it needs to dry some more, right, I put it on hooks like this afterwards. So then the pieces would be almost dry, but not dry enough yet. I would take it off the rack, and then from there, you can then put it in a cool, dry place. Like in a room, in a pantry, or in a shed like mine, right? So at that point where I need to finish the entire process, I put them on hooks like this, and I put them in my shed. And the cool thing about it is the fact that at this point it'll be like dry enough to where it's not dripping anymore, and at the same time, bugs are not going to be attracted to it, because it's, one, it's dry, two, it is salty or acidic, right? And so bugs are not going to be attracted to it. And then as far as bacteria and mold, well, the thing is, this is salty or acidic. Mold and bacteria don't grow on anything that is salty or acidic. And then two, it's also dry. So when it's dry, mold and bacteria aren't really going to be growing on it. Yeah, because mold and bacteria needs moisture, right? And it needs something that is alive, kind of. Not really alive, but it needs moisture, right? And so, yeah, that's why you can eat this, essentially. Like the raw meat, right? Raw meat technically can be eaten, right, without you getting sick. The main reason why we cook raw meat is because we are trying to, like, kill the bacteria and stuff like that. That's on the surface. For the most part, when you slice a piece of meat that's brand new, the inside doesn't have bacteria at that point, right? And so as long as you take good care of it, it's technically, you can eat raw meat. It's fine without any problems. But yeah, that's basically all there is to it. It's not really complicated. People make it really, really complicated, but essentially you can just take a piece of meat, right? Like, you literally can just take a piece of meat like this, throw some salt on it, right? Salt and pepper on it, and then just let it sit on a rack, right? And let it dry out, right? And then once it's completely dry, you can cut it up and eat it like beef jerky, you know? So I'm going to put this stuff away, and then I'll be open for some questions and stuff. And then I'll hang out for a little bit, but then I'm going to have to go back inside, and I'm going to work on some designs, because if you have noticed my Clueless Bushcraft account, if you notice, my logo is colored now. Do you guys like it? Do you like the new logo? Because I spent like a few hours last night coloring my logo. And it looks so cool. And I'm going to make stickers and stuff like that too. And t-shirts and all that. I have merch. I have merch coming. So I'm going to be doing merch soon. What account? You have another? Yeah, my Clueless Bushcraft. My Clueless Bushcraft account. That's my main account. This one right here, I'm not sure if you see it, but right here it says Dragon and Northern Sea. This account right here is my sort of alternate account, so I can go live on.